this morning will be coming from Judges 7. Judges 6 and 7. What? Oh, the microphone. I gotta have my little cue keepers down there. If I don't, y'all, I'll forget to do something. We'll be studying from Judges 6 and 7 this morning. There's nothing on the screen.
Well, no, I'm just, you need to tell me when to change, and I don't know what your screen.
How about I show y'all the screen too, and that might help. We're going to be looking at locking in the victory. Brethren, as we look around the world and what we see going on right now, there's a lot of discomfort, there's a lot of unrest, there's a lot of individuals who are running around and flaunting things such as look at the signs of this world, the end of the world must be coming, everything is coming to an end. Well, brethren, in one instance, I'll say that's true because everything has an end. Everything here in this world has an end. It's going to come to an end. We must understand that, and we must give that the credence due to it. But here's the thing that we must keep in mind as well. There's this idea of looking at signs of things and signs of things to come. And I want to share something with you that I went over during my reading this morning in the book of Acts, in the 28th chapter. As Paul is on his way to Rome, and he's a prisoner at this time, and the ship is wrecked on this island, and he comes on, when they get onto this island, the natives of that island of Malta, they're glad to see them because what the text reads in the first 6 verses there is that when they got on this island, some rain came with them. And some cooler weather came with them as well, and they were grateful for this. But they had a fire that was going there, and if you'll notice there in verse 3, is they had this fire going that Paul gathered up what it says is a bundle of sticks. He put it on the fire, or was putting it on the fire, and a viper came out of this bundle of sticks, and the text says it latched onto his hand. And the natives saw this happen. And when they saw it, they said, look, I want you to read this with me. Verse 4, when the natives saw the creature hanging from his hand. Y'all, I get a picture in my mind of what's going on here. As Paul's got this little bundle of sticks he's getting ready to put on this fire to keep everybody around them warm. And this snake comes out of here. And I don't know about y'all, but me and snakes don't get along. If we're in the same vicinity, one of us is probably going to die before it's all over with. That's just the way it is. But nonetheless, Paul picks up this bundle of sticks, and this very poisonous snake comes out and latches onto his hand. And I get an image in my mind of Paul sitting here looking at this snake like, really? Well, what do you think you're doing? And he shakes the thing off in the fire just like it's nothing. Now watch with these people. When the natives saw the creature hanging from his hand, they said to one another, now I think there's a key phrase right here. They said, no doubt this is a man that is a murderer. So they didn't have in their mind any doubt because of this sign that Paul had that snake on his hand, that this man must have been a murderer. Said he escaped the sea, but he's not going to get escape justice. It's just not going to happen. Now notice what happened. However, they expected that he would swell up or suddenly fall down dead, but after they had looked for a long time, the text says, they saw no harm coming to him. Well, we must have interpreted the sign wrong. And now we're going to change our minds. You see, when people see actions going on around us, they tend to interpret that action with whatever thought process they have, which leads in the direction that they want that sign to supposedly be interpreted. But you can see the fickleness and the silliness of looking at the idea that signs are pointing towards something going to specifically happen, such as individuals say, look, we've got a pestilence in the world. That means that's a sign of the end of the world's coming. It has to be. Yet, Matthew 12, verse 39, Jesus said it's a foolish individual who will look for a sign. So those things I need to keep in mind. Now, as we look at this, and I'm not saying that the end of time isn't going to be coming for a lot of folks by the time this is over with. We've seen the projected numbers. We can't escape that. This is something that we cannot deny, just simply cannot deny. But here's the thing. Are all individuals prepared to meet that end? You want to know what the sign tells you? The sign tells you that as long as you're alive, you have time. That when the end of your time comes, you're out of time. That's the only sign that I need to worry about. Whatever that time may be, it doesn't matter. Hebrews 9:27 says it's appointed unto man once to die and then the judgment. That's what I need to be concerned with. That's the sign that I must follow. So then I began to think about the idea of Gideon and his life in the Judges. And coming in Judges chapter 7, in verses, or actually if we back up to chapter 6, in verses 7 through 10, the Midianites were oppressing the people of God. They were oppressing Israel. And we see in verse 11, Gideon continuing to do work, and he was threshing the wheat in the wine presses in verse 11, but he was hiding while he was doing it. And I want you to notice verse 13 of chapter 6, and notice Gideon's thought process. It says, Gideon said to the Lord, when the Lord came and told him that he was going to be the one to deliver the people, he was a mighty man of valor. He says, "Oh Lord, if the Lord is with us, why then has all this happened to us?" Folks, you have any idea how many people right now are coming down with a positive diagnosis of this illness? And they're saying, "Why has God done this to me?" Brother, we've heard it said before, and I think it warrants, looking at it again. Instead of asking the question, "Why me?" why not ask the question, "Why not me?" Why not me? Is there not suffering that we must go through in this world? Do we not realize that every bad thing that is in this world is not of God's doing? Those temptations, those evil things in this world, those are not of God's doing. Those are of our own doing. The wickedness, the evil, all the illnesses that are in this world, do you not realize that those tie all the way back to Adam and Eve making that decision to go against God's word? That's where it begins. From that point up until now, we have seen nothing but evil and wickedness continue to grow. Illnesses and diseases continue to develop as we go throughout life in this world. Why? Y'all, that's our fault. Again, the question is, why not me? So I also look and I see that Gideon has the idea that he's a bit small-minded. If I notice verse 15, he said, "So he said to him, O my Lord, how can I save Israel? Indeed, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the last of my father's house." So we see that Gideon was a small-minded individual, but then the Lord turns around and says, "Here's the answer. Surely I will be with you, and you shall defeat the Midianites even as one man." Here's the thing. If God is on our side, who can be against us? If we are talking about winning a spiritual warfare, if God is on my side, who can be against me? There is no one that can rise to that challenge, albeit so many would try throughout the history of time. How many times have you heard people in the public light utter things as, "Well, in 100 years, the Bible's not going to exist anymore." But yet it's been here for 2,000 years and it hasn't fallen once yet. How many individuals, how many world leaders have tried to make the Bible itself to be an illegal document and gather them up and try to burn them in piles? Yet, I dare say everyone that is watching this morning or tuned in through Zoom or whichever avenue you tuned in, you'll be holding one of these in your hand because it's still here. Brother, here's the thing. We need to figure out, just like Gideon needed to figure out, we need to figure out how to lock in the victory. So, here's where victory comes. I want you to notice the things that were going on in Gideon's time. The Lord comes to him and tells him he's going to deliver him, and then he asks for a sign. He gets the sign, but then that's not quite good enough. He's told to go gather the people, and when he gathers the people, we find out in chapter 7 that he had gathered some 32,000 individuals to fight with him. But 32,000 wasn't enough in his mind. He says, "Lord, I need a sign. Let me put this fleece out on the ground and cause the whole ground to be dry, but let this fleece be wet." And he says the next morning he woke up and he wrung about a bowl full of water out of that fleece. And then that was not quite enough in and of itself. The next thing we see is Gideon comes back and says, "Lord, now do this one more time. Just be patient with me. Do this one more time." Y'all, as if the fire coming out of that rock and devouring that sacrifice that he had wasn't enough. earlier in the chapter. And then seeing the fleece soaking wet and the ground dry around it wasn't enough. He says, Lord, this time let the ground be wet all around that fleece, but let the fleece be dry. And the next morning's exactly what he saw. Matthew Henry had some comments regarding this, and I think they're very apt. He said these signs are truly miraculous, yes, and they're very significant. Gideon and his men were going to fight the Midianites. Could God distinguish between the small fleece of Israel and the vast floor of Midian? Think about this. Gideon is made to know that God could do so. Is he desirous that the dew of divine grace might come down upon himself in particular? He sees the fleece wet with dew to assure him of it. Does he desire that God will be as the dew to all Israel? Behold, the ground is wet. Did the Lord not tell him, Gideon, I can defeat the Midianites even with you by yourself? That one man. I find it so interesting as we go through this study together. Now, I want you to see, I say lock in the victory, and I want you to think about a lock as we come into our first point together. Brethren, what does a lock represent? It represents something being secured, does it not? It represents something being shored into place. But I find it interesting how so vast of a place can be locked in and secured by so small of an inlet. You know, we've got a storage building here in town. It drives me nuts when I go to that storage building to put something in it or get something out of it. I always got to take the keys and undo that lock. You know, a lock is only good to keep good people good. That's really always good. It keeps honest people honest. And here's the thing. We put those locks in on there to secure those things, but I think that storage building and what it has in it, what it contains, and that lock is so small. But then I think that key is even smaller, or the combination that unlocks it is even smaller. You see, that's what we're going to observe this morning. Let us look at the combination of the lock. You see, combinations unlock things. But this combination was going to be the lock. The 32, the 10, and the 3. You see, the combination of God's victory, this is his victory lock. And there's three things that challenge that lock in order to be able to make it secure. One is fear. I want you to notice in chapter 7 in the first 3 verses, Then Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, and all the people who were with him rose early and camped beside the well of Harod, so that the camp of the Midianites was on the north of them by the hill of Moreh in the valley. And the Lord said to Gideon, the people who are with you are too many for me to give to the Midianites into their hands, lest Israel claim glory for itself against me, saying, my own hand is saved. Now look at this. Gideon needed a sign that 32,000 was enough. But the Lord says, Gideon, 32,000 is too many. That's too many. Notice verse 3. Now, therefore proclaim in the hearing of the people, saying, whoever ever is fearful and afraid. I got a question for you this morning. Are you part of the 32,000? Are you part of the fearful and the afraid? Are you part of, rather, the 22,000, verse 4, the second half, the 22,000 of the people who returned and left 10,000 standing? So it makes me think of our master when he climbed in that boat in Matthew chapter 8, verse 23, when his disciples followed him. Suddenly the tempest arose on the sea, and the boat was covered with the waves. But that didn't bother our master. He lay asleep. It didn't bother him at all. But his disciples, they were terrified. They came to him and woke, saying, Lord, save us, we're perishing. But he said to them, why are you fearful? Do you not realize that you've got the master of the winds and the waves here in the boat with you? Why are you fearful, O ye of little faith? He arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm, and the men marveled. They said, who can this be, that even the winds and the sea obey him? Folks, we've got someone to follow. We've got a leader to follow, and that leader is Christ. You remember 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 1, Paul uttered these words, follow me even as I also follow Christ. You see, he was following the spiritual leader. And those two laid a path for us to follow. You see, we've got to realize, as the Hebrews writer expressed, it is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. You want something to be terrified of? That's what you ought to be terrified of. Because the cowardly and unbelieving and abominable and murderers and those who are the sexually immoral, the sorcerers, the idolaters, and all the liars, they have their place which burn in the lake which burns with fire and brimstone. So, looking at the 32, the Lord removed the fearful. You see, what I understand from that is that if I'm going to be fearful looking at what we face, if I'm going to be fearful, if I'm going to be terrified for my life, I must ask myself, do I love this life more than what I love the life to come? That's the question that I am challenged to answer. Who can this be that even the winds and the sea obey me? You see, the part of that 32 is going to remove those who were fearful, and then it's going to come down to the next portion of the lock that locks in the victory, and that's the 10. Prepared or unprepared? I want you to notice with me verses 5 and 4 through 6, as we look at the prepared versus the unprepared. The Lord said to Gideon, the people are still too many. Wait a minute. I can only imagine Gideon's thought process. Wait a minute, Lord. I needed you to give me a sign so that I knew 32,000 was enough. Now you're telling me 10,000 is not even enough to do the work that you have set before me? He says the people are still too many. Bring them down to the water. I'm going to test them again. And in a summarized fashion, he said, those who go down and drink from the water and they get down on their knees and they lap up water like a dog, he said, you send them home. But the ones who go down to the river and they pick up the water in their hand and they drink it from their hand, those are the ones you're going to take with them. And by the end of this, he had 300 left. 300. 32,000, 10,000, and 3. Brother, that's the combination. The fearful. See, those who came down and lapped down that river, they weren't prepared for what they might be facing. They weren't ready to go into the fray of battle. Therefore, the unprepared were removed from the equation. And those 300 that are left are those who are prepared. You see, Ezra understood what it meant to be prepared, didn't he? He said, I prepared myself to know the law of the Lord and to do it. Think about Jesus' explanation about preparations that he is making in John 14, one of the most blessed passages that we have. He says, why do you fear? He understood his disciples were fearing. He said, why do you fear? You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many, many large rooms. If it weren't so, I would have told you. Now watch, he says, you talk about being prepared. I'm going to prepare your place. And I'm going to come again. So that, that place I just said I was going to prepare, that place is going to be prepared for you so that when I come again, I can receive you unto myself, and where I am, you might be also. Are we going to be part of the 32? Are we going to be part of the 10? Or will we challenge ourselves to be part of the 3 and be those who are thereby prepared when that fateful day does come? You see, not only do we need to understand the combination, but we need to understand the necessity of the leader. Remember, I told you, Paul said that follow me also as I also follow Christ. We've got to understand there are spiritual leaders that we need to look for. If you look at verses 9 through 17 of Judges chapter 7, you see that Gideon is now fitting into that spot as a leader. And it happened, verse 9, on that same night that the Lord said to him, arise, go down against the camp, for I have delivered it into your hand. But if you are afraid to go down to the camp of Purah your servant, and you shall hear what they say, and afterward your hand shall be strengthened to go down to the camp. Then he went down with Purah, his servant, to the outposts of the armed men who were in the camp. Gideon has already seen 3 miraculous things that the Lord has done. But that seems to evidently not be enough to settle him into the point that now he thinks, with 300 men, I'm supposed to go defeat the army of the Amalekites and the Midianites. You see, they're together in that valley? The Midianites and Amalekites, all the people of the east were lying in the valley as numerous as the locusts. Right, that's thousands. Hundreds of thousands if I had to guess. The camels were without number. The sand, you couldn't even count the numbers of the seashore and be able to, in that illustrative sense, be able to get a sense of how many camels they had sitting there and how vast this army was. And when Gideon had come, it says there was a man telling a dream to his companion, and he said, I had a dream, to my surprise, a loaf of barley bread. Y'all, that's the cheap stuff. That's the cheap stuff. That's the lowly bread. He said a loaf of barley bread tumbled into the camp of Midian. It came to the tent, it struck it so that it fell, and it overturned, the tent collapsed. Then his companion answered and said, This is nothing else but the sword of Gideon, the son of Joash, a man of Israel, into his hand. God has delivered Midian and the whole camp. You see, even the soldiers in that camp were beginning to figure out what was about to happen. Now let's summarize what's going on with this leader. This leader is being prepared. He's got to have his nerves settled. He's got to have his mind set. We can do this. With God on our side, who can defeat us? Brethren, what we see going on around us, who can defeat us? If this thing that is going around takes hold of you and it removes you from this world, are you fearful about what's to face? Are you unprepared for the end to come? Or have you prepared yourself so that when the end comes, you know that the Lord, with you alone, can defeat anyone and anything? See, that leader was being prepared. When we look at our congregations around us, folks, we've got to prepare leaders. We've got to prepare elders according to 1 Timothy 3 and Titus 1 to be able to fit those character traits. We've got to, according to 1 Timothy 3, prepare individuals to fill those roles of deacons and helping them learn that they're alive, and the way that they live will be the character traits which decide whether or not they fill those positions. We've got to have teachers prepared to go out and teach our children, teach our young folks while they're growing up. And we, brethren, have got to have preachers prepared to go out and proclaim the Word of God. 2 Timothy 4:2. Preach the Word. Be instant in season, out of season. Reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine. I find it interesting that we have people all over the world, they get the doctrine part, but they seem to leave out the long suffering part. He says reprove, rebuke, exhort with all, notice what's first, long suffering, patience. Allowing folks time to learn, allowing them time to be able to wrap their minds around the things that they are learning so that they can accept them and make them a part of their lives. And these places, brethren, is a spot for every member to be a leader. If anyone speaks in a tongue, notice Paul's words in 1 Corinthians 14, let him be by 2 or 3 or both, and each one let one interpret. He's trying to get them to understand that those signs were meant for a specific thing, and that those folks then were abusing them. They were trying to be leaders going the wrong direction. Therefore, we must teach them to be leaders so that each one may speak in turn. Each one may do what he needs to in order so that things can be godly and decent and in order. We need elders who are willing to lead the church. We need deacons who are willing to work through the assignments given to them by the elders. We need teachers who are ready to teach the youth and the adults alike. We need preachers who are continually proclaiming the word of truth and setting it in order so that things are not lacking. See, God prepared Gideon to lead. He is also preparing you and I to lead as well. I hope you realize that with the current distress that our world is in, there are going to be a lot of people having what we might call a spiritual awakening. Here's my question. Are you ready to lead them? Are you ready to help them to get to the position that they need to be in to be right in the sight of Almighty God? See, good leaders must lead by example. In chapter 7 of Judges, verses 15 through 20, Gideon, when he finally figured it out, He led by example. He didn't just send his men into battle. He didn't just send them in there with themselves. He went with them. And he said, fellas, this is what we're going to do. Those folks had to lock in that leader. They had to lock him in. By getting in, he had to get in the ditch and dig with them. Folks, elders must be willing to get in the ditch and dig. Deacons must be. Teachers and preachers. Godly leaders must lead by example, not simply by barking orders at someone and expecting everyone to fall into place. Leadership is done by example. That old adage that says you can't push a rope. You know, if you were to push a string, place a string on the table in front of you and get at the end of it and try to push it, folks, that string not going to do anything but wad up into a knot. But if you put your finger at the other end, even wad it up and begin to lead that string and pull it, then it straightens itself out. And wherever your finger desires to pull it, that string follows behind. You see, those leaders who are willing to be a part of true leadership will lead by getting into the trenches with everyone else. With good, willing leaders, brother, God will accomplish great things with very few. Again, when Gideon told the Lord that he was nothing, in essence, that's what he's saying, Lord, I'm nothing. My tribe of people, it's nothing. It's the smallest among everyone. He said, I'm nobody. The Lord said, I can defeat Midian with one man. Well, I got a question. Are you ready to find the leaders and lock in the victory? Remember, 32, 10, and 3. Notice verses 21 through 25 of Judges chapter 7, 21 through 25. You see, here was the thing. Every man stood in his place around the camp. The whole army ran and cried out and fled. And when the 300 blew the trumpets, the Lord set every man's sword against his companion. You realize the Midianites and the Amalekites killed each other? Unless I'm reading this account incorrectly, Israel didn't have to lift a sword. It says, every man his companion throughout the whole camp. And the army fled to Beth-Acacia toward Zerah. And as far as the border of Abel-Maholah and Tabith. And the men of Israel gathered together from Naphtali, Asher, and all Manasseh, and pursued the Midianites. Getting with one man, I can defeat a nation. You know, a lot of people have asked the question, why, when Jesus was on that cross, did he not call down for those 12 legions of angels to take him off that cross? I've heard it said many times, and I faithfully believe it. He didn't need 12 legions. One could have done the job and wiped out the entire world at the same time. That's all it would have taken. With one, God can do much. I've got a question. Are you going to be part of that one? I want you to notice something. 32, 10, and 3. Do you realize that that's less than 1% of the original force that was able to defeat the Midianites and Amalekites? Look at the numbers. Just look at the numbers for a moment. Go back to Genesis 6 through 9 and 6 through 8. Look at the flood. An estimated 3 billion people upon the face of the earth, yet there were 8 saved. In Israel, when they were preparing to enter into Canaan, 603,550 men of fighting age, 2 entered. Exodus 38:26. 2 of them. Gideon had 32,000 that were reduced to 300 that produced an incredible victory. The apostles upon the face of the earth, 12 men, Acts 17:6, who turned the world upside down. Folks, with God, much can be done with very little. I want you to think about this. Now, these numbers apply. I don't know who all may be tuned in on our website or on Facebook this morning, but these numbers that I have apply to us here in Marshall. So I want you to think about what this represents. The church over at Westside has about 100 plus members. in that area, between 100 and 150 members. Here at Marshall, we've got about 40 to 50. Iglesia de Cristo has about 15 to 20. Ken told me Antioch has about 17. If you put all those numbers together, that's about 200 or so, give or take a few. Brethren, 32,000 reduced to 300. 24,000, we have roughly 200. You think the percentages might be about the same? Let me tell you something. Do you think God can do a lot with a little? He absolutely sure can. And when we look at the assignment of the leaders, that's all leaders. That's the church. The church is to be the leader in the community. The church is to be. That's the elders, the deacons, the preachers, the Bible class teachers, the members. Every member of the Lord's church is to be the leader in the community. And here's your assignment. Go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved, but he that believeth not shall be condemned. That's your assignment. It's the same assignment that Matthew recorded in Matthew 28 when Jesus came and spake unto them, saying, all authority has been given unto me in heaven and earth. Go ye therefore, teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have taught you. Watch this. Lo, I'm with you always, even unto the end of the world. You know, a lot of times we may feel like we're trying to lead by ourselves. And oftentimes, if you're going to put yourself in the position of a leader, you may be leading by yourself. But the fact of the matter is this. With God, great things can be accomplished while using little. We must be prepared to lock in the leader. We must be prepared to lock in the victory. You see, here's the thing. God's going to lock the victory of the gospel spread up here in Marshall. Whether I'm a part of it or not. Whether you're a part of it or not. God's going to lock in the victory. Which part of the combination are you going to be? Here or in your own area? 32,000 individuals in that army said, I will not go unless we all go. Yet I remember a prophet uttering the words, here am I, Lord, send me. He didn't say, Lord, here's us, send all of us. He said, here am I, send me. Am I going to be part of that 32,000? Saying, if everybody else goes, I'll go. What about part of the 10,000? Will I be part of the combination of 10 that says, I'm only going to go if I can do it the easy way, the unprepared way. If I can have the preacher tell me what I need to do and then follow what the preacher says instead of picking up this book and putting my own time and energy and effort into figuring out what God wants me to do myself. Or will I be part of the 300 who are prepared and ready to conquer the world for Him? Folks, God's going to do great things with small armies. The question you have to answer, the question that I have to answer, is am I going to be a part of that small army? Or am I going to be left out? I'm going to have a song of invitation put on the screen here in a few moments with the audio to lead us in that song. I realize the difficulty of where I have a phone sitting in my pocket in which someone can send a text message to. If you have a request or prayer for yourself, if you need strength, encouragement, prayers for forgiveness, whatever your need may be, we can still help you with that while we're all here joined together, at least in as much of a fashion as we possibly can. It may be that someone this morning or someone watching this video at some time in the future, maybe the realization has struck you that you're ready to be part of that 3. Remember, 32, 10, and 3. 32 fearful, 10 unprepared, 3 prepared. Maybe it is that you are ready to be part of that 3, that you believe that Jesus is the Son of God, John 8:24. That you are ready to repent of your sins and put that life of sin behind you, Luke 13, 3 and 5. You are prepared at this moment in time to confess your Lord and Master to those who are within earshot, that you believe that Jesus is the Son of God, John 30, or Matthew 13, 32 and 33. are you ready to be part of that less than 1%? I want you to think about this. Matthew 7:13-14. Enter ye in by the straight gate. For wide is the way, and easy is wide is the gate, rather, and easy is the way that leadeth to destruction. And many there be that go in thereat. But narrow is the gate. Straight is the way which leadeth to eternal life. And few there be that find it. Do you want to be part of that 1%? Less than 1%. If we look at the numbers of those saved and lost throughout the scriptures and the way things are laid out, less than 1%. Are you ready to be buried in that watery grave of baptism, to arise and walk in newness of life, to be a child of God, to be washed and cleansed of your sin, ready to walk in newness of life? If that's a request that you have to make, send that to us this morning and give us the opportunity to meet up with you. We can meet you here at the building. If you're off somewhere else, we can find someone in your area who will help you be able to be obedient to the gospel. Here's the thing. I'm going to try my dead level best to be part of that less than 1%. And I want to do everything possible to help you be a part of that less than 1% too. As this invitation song is led to us this morning, and I pray that you would think about those things. I pray that if there is something within your heart and mind that you need to share, that you need to have us pray for you, to help you, that you will let us know of those things, and we will do that this morning. If you have any of those requests,